How's it going, folks? My name's Matthew, aka EZBOT. I'm here with Jordo, aka Phemto, in the studio, and we're going to be talking about Push 3 in 2026. I've known Jordan for many years. He's a close friend of mine, and he's who got me on the Push 3 initially. And I don't know if you saw this, but years ago, when Push 3 was first released, Jordan and I did a live stream on the Push 3 when it first came out. And got quite a bit of attention. So it got quite a few views, and we wanted to revisit basically looking back at that stream and seeing where we are now with the Push 3 in 2026. So it came out in 2023, I think in May, and so it's been quite some time, and Ableton has added a lot of features. Jordan has been making music since 2009, a music producer, started in Reason, eventually found himself using Push 2 in Ableton. I'll let him tell more about that as he's showing off his Push 3 skills and kind of giving me a lesson on Push 3 again, because I keep having to revisit it. As you know, if you watch this channel at all, I'm pretty hardcore on Electron and trackers, and Push 3 is a completely different experience. And so Jordan's going to kind of show me his workflow and try and get me hooked on the Push 3 while we discuss where it's at in 2026.
Yeah.
So what can you tell me about Push 3 in 2026 that is maybe monumental in terms of like how far it's come? Is there anything that just jumps out at you?
Yeah. So there's been a lot of workflow improvements since Push came out. Specifically standalone. When you are plugged into a computer, you have access to all of the computer things that you might want to do. So there's all these limitations that when you're in standalone mode, you don't have to deal with on the controller. So there were a bunch of things kind of right off the jump that were pretty tricky to work around. So for instance, setting up MIDI mappings. So here I've got a MIDI fighter twister. And I've been using kind of a mix bus mapping setup for quite a while. And usually I bake this directly into my templates. And that's how you've had to get MIDI mapping onto Push Standalone. You have to basically set it up on the computer and copy it over to standalone. But now we can set up MIDI mappings directly on the device.
Does it work the same as the MIDI mapping? I haven't done the MIDI mapping on the Push 3, so maybe even showing me that at some point during the stream would be really cool, because that's very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Something that Jordan and I were talking about before the stream started was this fantasy that I have with the Push 3, which is to know it so well that it's I know it as well as I know the Octatrack. And then to pair it with something like the Noidside Drop or the Oxy E16, something with macro and scenes and scene fading. So stuff that mimics the crossfader scenes that I like on the Octatrack, which is even something we can build on the Push 3 without those controllers.
Yeah.
But it is really cool to have those controllers.
Yeah, I'm
interested in that.
There's some really cool Max for Live devices that people have made that get you kind of scene morphing style effects. But all of them, at least the ones that I've tried, the workflow is kind of limited in certain ways, and having something like the drop where the scene jumping is kind of baked into the MIDI controller, in my opinion, makes a lot of sense.
Cool.
So I've had the MIDI Fighter Twister for, I think I got this in 2014, so I've had it for a really long time. I feel super comfortable with it. I used to DJ in Tractor quite a lot, and so I would go play shows in college with this and a DJ controller. So it's seen a lot of use, and I really like using it with Push, but at some point I want to get myself a Noidside Drop. So Noidside, if you're listening,
send one to Jordan.
What's up, bud?
What other features stand out besides the MIDI mapping? Because that's a really recent feature, and there's been a couple of years of development, and not that I expect you to have memorized every update from the Push, but I know there's some stuff where it's just oh man, this came out, and you're just yes.
Yeah.
Or maybe the X and Y thing, or a couple other
X and Y is awesome. I've been really enjoying that for doing kind of performative stuff.
And that's in the layouts.
Yeah. So right now we're in the session layout. So this is just looking at clips here. But if you go over to the note layout, depending on what track you're on, so this is a drum rack. Here, this section, you can reconfigure this to do all sorts of stuff. So this is 16 velocities. So starting from the lowest all the way up to the loudest. And then we've got 16 pitches. So you can do all sorts of crazy pitch stuff on a single pad. and variations as well, which we can get into at some point, but the XYZ pad right here. So you can hook up different parameters either at an instrument level or at a device level. And whatever you have selected, this XYZ pad will be associated with that. So,
And this XYZ pad can also act as a crossfader.
yeah,
if
you
you
can
wanted
think
it
about
to.
it like a configurable chaos pad.
Just like,
basically.
okay, so yeah. Okay, cool.
And it does, X, Y, and then of course Z is just the pressure here. So you can get some really cool stuff with that, especially with like beat repeats, and
Right.
it can get pretty wild pretty quick.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Other notable features, there's some like really simple, silly ones like moving things around. Like you can just move tracks around.
Which has been like really important to you.
That wasn't so silly. That wasn't available when Push 3 standalone originally came out. So you'd have to really think about where you wanted your tracks to be, and if you wanted a space between here, you'd have to go and add a track between there. It was just a lot of like planning
Weird
that you had to
workaround
do.
stuff.
Yeah, you had to think ahead a lot more.
Okay.
Now you can
Be a lot more in the moment.
yeah, you can kind of do it, work however you're feeling, and then after the fact, kind of readjust things. Let's see, what other big features? Oh yeah, like even like creating groups. That wasn't really possible before. Now, if you hold down Shift and you select multiple tracks, you can just create a group right there. Super handy.
I mean, this is stuff that you don't even have in like, for me, like even with like my trackers and all of the hardware trackers that I have, and even software stuff, and my Electron stuff, even creating groups is not even
Right.
something my brain even naturally thinks of doing. Like I do have a group kind of workflow that I do in my Digitect and Digitone, where I'm like grouping things for the compressor,
Right.
grouping things for control all and stuff like that, or even grouping tracks on Digitone so that the like, track layering and stuff. And that's as far as like I even think.
Yeah, and at most you get two groups, right? You get the what's going to the compressor and then everything else,
Right.
which
It's still like barely even. It's not anything like what you're describing here and what we
Right.
can do here.
yeah. Let's see, what other big features have I been really enjoying? They added USB class compliant sound card, which is
Which
pretty
you've been
sweet.
leveraging and developing.
Yeah, I'm working on something. It's still in the oven, as one might say. But I'm building some sound card drivers for Push Standalone that interact with overbridge devices.
Right.
So you get multi-tracked audio in and out.
When you already and this already functions.
Yes, yeah, I have it working for Digitac 2 and Analog Heat MK1 because those are the two Electron
Devices.
boxes that I own.
Nice.
But hopefully I'll be borrowing some from here, and we'll be
We
working
do
on.
have a plethora of them for you to take home.
Perfect.
No, that's really cool. I just wanted to like see like what pops off at the top of your head from somebody who's really engaged in the Push 3. Jordan is always conversations that Jordo and I have about this stuff, because I'm hardcore Electron and Jordan's hardcore Push 3, and he's so hardcore that he's developing tools.
Well, I love Electron devices too. So our love for electronic music has this beautiful overlap.
And hardware.
Yes.
Right. And this
Yeah.
kind of like this bit of this dawless experience. Right. Even though this is this and that.
It's debatable,
It's definitely
yeah.
hybrid versus, and Electron can go hybrid too when it comes to, because it has overbridge.
Right.
So like it does also have that kind of medium ground that this has. But Jordan and I kind of debate this, coming from two people who are making music all the time, are very crazy about what we're doing. I'm developing templates on the Octrack. He's developing software for the Push 3 to engage with this stuff. So we both are like deeply engaged in this. And Jordan and I will kind of debate pretty regularly about like, he'll be like, you could do this on the Push 3. And I'll be like, well, the experience is, this. And I'll be like, I like this on my Electron workflow. And then we kind of like, we go back and forth. We butt heads now and then, but sometimes I get to convince Jordan and sometimes Jordan gets to convince me. And today's kind of like an opportunity for Jordan to show me all the really cool things that the Push 3 has to offer now, and demonstrate that with some of his own music. And so I think it would be a good idea for us to listen to, like, for you to show us a track and maybe explain a little bit about what's going on the track after the fact, but just like really brief, because I want to do like the track deep dive stuff is not what we're here for. I'm here to like learn about the device, but I definitely want to hear the music and see, and kind of poke questions about like how long does it take to like build something like this from a Push 3's perspective. So
For sure.
if you want to play some music for us,
Yeah.
that would be super sick.
Yeah, sure. This is just like a jam I've been working on. So Don't expect it to be super polished or anything.
I'm sure
but,
it'll sound awesome.
It's quite fun, yeah. Especially with a controller here. I have a bunch of stuff mapped up, so I guess I'll just jump right into it.
Sounds awesome. That was a great demo, and I love your music. Honestly, I really
Thanks.
do. Like it sounds good, and it always sounds like you've managed to capture your sound, and even when you program it from your Push 3 or you write directly in Ableton or your Reason productions, which I've heard, they all sound like you. So that's great and really cool, and I think is a compliment to your skill.
Thanks.
I'm curious, when you're making a production like this, where do you start?
Yeah, good question.
Like from a Push 3 user, I know like you hang out on your hammock sometimes and like jam with your Push 3. Nobody else on the planet may be doing that. But what is it? Where? Tell me.
Yeah, so I use a lot of samples, and I like playing instruments. So before I got into electronic music, I learned guitar and was playing in bands, drums and bass, a little bit of background singing. Pretty bad singer, to be honest. But regardless, I love playing things, and I think one of the strong suits of Push is being able to play chord progressions and instruments. I think compared to the Electron workflow, Electron stuff is a lot more centered around programming and kind of the happy accidents you get from programming patterns.
Just twisting a knob.
Yeah, you're laying down some P-locks or whatever, or trigless trigs, and then you do something goofy in the LFO, like it's all wonky, and then all of a sudden you've got this really cool like patch that you didn't realize you were going to come up with.
Do that here too.
Sorta, yeah. But the happy accidents and the workflow really centers around playing stuff in.
Right.
So actually, one of the areas that I would love to see the devs continue to work on the Push workflow is in the programming side of things.
So the sequencer aspect.
Yeah. I do a lot of automation and a lot of similar things that you do on the Electron box in kind of the parameter locking style. But from Push Standalone, you can't really visualize that automation in a good way. So you can record it in, but you can't really go back and edit it in like a clean or a smooth way. So I'd love to see that kind of get improved. But in general, the way that I start working, like I think this one I started by just playing. I was just noodling around on the chords here. Yeah, so I was just playing chords, and I didn't even have I don't think I even had like a tempo or the transport running at all.
Just like just jamming.
Just goofing around, you know, holding weird.
Just new boot goofing.
New boot goofing, babe. Something like that.
I know that you have like, so like when you're looking at the isometric perspective here, you have some chord shapes memorized just from experience.
Yeah.
But you also have this, because you can configure this perspective to your desire, right? Like this could be in thirds, it can be in fourths, it can be chromatic, it can be set to scales. What is your...
Blasphemous, but yes.
Blasphemy. So you definitely have an opinion about this.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of really great ways to work. And like on the dig attack, when I go into note mode, I usually don't have it in chromatic, so I'll put it into scale mode. Nothing against scale mode, guys. I'm not here to say one way is the only way or anything. But coming from playing acoustic instruments, I like having it in chromatic mode.
Okay.
I do use the different scales that are available here, just so I can visualize and like stay in key and stuff.
That's kind of like what I'm gonna make a lot of references to Electron stuff because that's what I know.
Yeah.
So like to me, when you say visualize the scale mode in this perspective, it's like the light view of the keyboard scale on like Toneverg, for instance, where it doesn't lock your notes to the scale, right? You're just
right. You
want to visualize it, but go out,
yeah. You can still see accidentals
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
accidentals,
exactly. I learned a lot about chord shapes on Push from this other YouTube creator, Jamie Blake. He makes really great content. He's also just an incredible piano player. But he makes a lot of kind of R&B, jazzy, pop style stuff.
Okay.
And he's got a bunch of really great content. I think he even has a course about like practicing the
chord
push
progressions.
Yeah, just learning chord shapes and things like that. One of the reasons why I like the chromatic mode is that the same physical shape is always the same quality
like it would be
of sound
on an acoustic instrument.
Right. Yeah. So like this is a minor third or a minor chord trio, right?
Triad.
Or triad, yeah. And then this is, same shape regardless of where you put it on the keyboard. It's always the same. But if you go into in key mode,
then it changes.
all of a sudden the same physical shape might be a different quality of chord depending on your scale and depending on where you are in the scale. Which can also be really great too. So again, for happy
you have
accidents,
to memorize your shapes for every scale.
Right. Yeah.
That seems a little unrealistic.
Yeah, and if you're going for happy accidents, switching up what layout you're using can be really great because you might play chords or notes or whatever in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. Like for instance, on the dig attack, if I put it into in key mode, a lot of the times you get basically 2 octaves of the notes, right? Because like the bottom row is your lower octave, the top row is your upper octave, and you can kind of toggle them around. And when I'm making patterns on that, I find myself doing a lot of octave jumps where I'm just playing around the same couple notes, but because you're changing octaves, you get a very different feel out of the pattern. So I guess just to bring it back to where I would start with making stuff. A lot of the times I just pull up like a E piano or like a Rhodes sort of patch on Push and just like
that sounds really good.
Start fooling around and see where it goes from there. Other times, like if I get a new sample pack, I spend time digging through the sample pack to find what bits I really like and what bits I don't care for as much. And sometimes if I'm feeling really forward thinking, then I'll go ahead and start adding samples that I like to a collection. so that later, after the fact,
Is
when
that
we're
easy
in
to
the browser?
do on here? Is that
Yeah.
fast, or is that like a cool workflow to like create collections?
Yeah.
Do you have
Yeah.
any advice for me? So like say I just very quick side quest here. Say I'm brand new to Push 3. I just grabbed a Push 3. I got sample packs on my computer. I have Ableton Suite because I'm smart and I picked up Suite and it's got everything you could ever want, every sound on the planet. Because Ableton Suite is absolutely gangster when it comes to the sound palettes it offers and
Yeah.
the instruments too.
Well, and you get Max for Live.
And you get Max
Sweet.
for Live, which I installed recently to like try and learn. If I was brand new, what would you say? Should I just install everything, or should I like?
I think that's super overwhelming.
Okay,
I
so
like
don't do that.
Yeah, like there's so many, especially coming from making electronic music on a computer. When I was using Reason, for majority of the time I was using Reason, you couldn't use VSTs.
Okay.
There were no audio tracks. It was just MIDI samplers and MIDI instrument like synthesizers. And it was very locked down. And because of that, it made it super convenient to just like spend time in Thor, which is one of the synthesizers, or Maelstrom, or Kong Drum Designer, which is basically their MPC device.
Okay.
So I'm a firm believer of trying to stay as focused as possible.
Does that help you with the Push 3? Because like in like my ecosystem that I come from, like say I have an MA tracker or a Digatactor or whatever, I could pack that thing with unlimited sounds and samples, and that would have zero effect on my workflow. Like that wouldn't
almost becomes a
distract
problem.
me.
Because
from
now
my
you're
music.
like browsing through, a billion kick drum samples.
It does seem like it's a little bit different because of the way you approach the Push 3 and like its navigation.
Yeah.
It having less might be a better
Yeah.
thing because of its navigation.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And just like the free VST world, there are so many options, and you really don't need every compressor plugin available, or you don't need to load this up with a billion instrument presets or whatever.
Okay.
Like I like exploring what's available and kind of piece by piece. Like if I was to relate this to like an MMO or something, like I'm not going to the right uppermost corner of the map right off the jump. I'm gonna hang around the starting area for a bit.
The analogy.
I'm gonna do some of the starting quests, figure out how does drum rack work, and get really comfortable using drum rack. And then okay, now we can move on to the next piece. Because just like within Ableton, there's a million ways that you can get to the same result.
On Push.
Yeah, on Push, yeah. And if you're trying to maximize making music, you don't need to learn every way under the sun that you can sequence your drums, right? Like realistically, if you learn one way to sequence your drums and you practice that, it's like a muscle, right? You want to build up the muscle memory of getting really comfortable so that you can move quickly and you don't have to stumble over yourself when you have an idea. Because there's nothing worse, regardless of what device or what software you're using, like having the idea but not being able to get it onto paper fast enough. So yeah, I'm a big proponent of like just learn one aspect of it really well, and then once you're comfortable with that, move on to the next thing.
Well, going back to like the beginning of the discussion where we like new things that have come to Push 3, and since besides like I'd say like the best thing that came to Push 3 since it was developed was fixing the bugs, because Push 3 came with a lot of great tools to begin with, and it had some workflow stuff that it needed, like you've shown off, like grouping quickly, moving tracks around and stuff like that has been really useful. But it was also like a struggle because it would crash and things were like it. Like a lot of things nowadays, launches have been rough.
Yeah.
And it had a kind of a rough launch. It's now almost 3 years later.
Yeah.
And my Push doesn't crash anymore.
Good.
And it has a lot of new tools, like it has like Meld, which was something that wasn't there, right? Wasn't that?
That was I think that was a
Meld
Live
or-
12.
Was that a Live
update.
12? There was a
Meld and Roar. Both of those came out with Live 12. I think it was 12.2. It was one of the
Wasn't there one Drift?
minor Drift. Yeah, Drift also came. I think Drift was also live 12.
Was that okay? So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe nothing new instruments have come since the
but
last 3 years.
Yeah, I don't think so. But the user interface on Push, they've made a lot of these devices more accessible. So like one of
Okay.
the other problems was, like for instance on the compressor, if you wanted to sidechain something, there wasn't a menu on Push
Can
to
you
select.
show me
Yeah,
that?
yeah, for sure.
So
So
that's something I would use.
so this is the bass track, right? So it's just a sample with an EQ, and this is a rack I made, but it's just a glue compressor inside of it, and then a compressor at the end. So this is getting sidechained to the kick drum, and if I just play this, it's not triggering anything because the kick isn't playing. But if I trigger
Can you
this,
do ghost notes, like MIDI ghost notes, like you can in Ableton?
yeah.
Like without booting up Ableton?
As in like adjusting velocities? of
No,
notes,
like
or...
can I do like not ghost notes and maybe I used the wrong verbiage. I mean like you can trigger your compressor without
Without a
using
sound.
actual sound. Yeah, like can I have it sidechain duck to silence a silent note?
Sort of. So you can have it sidechain to another device or another track, and then you can just mute that track.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I do on
Yeah.
in the Electron realm. So
yeah.
how do I actually sidechain?
So in this case, actually, let me refresh myself with how I set up this project, because I have kind of changed my workflow over the years, and this
Project has been going on
be-
for a long time.
This might be an older one. Yeah, I started this a while ago. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So here's what I'm doing. So we have the drum rack here, and it has a kick drum, nothing, and a clap. Let's just worry about the kick drum for now. So the kick drum is just a sample, and then here I have another MIDI track which has an operator on it.
Okay.
This is one of the kind of older synth. It's like FM synth.
Is there was it
think it's
4-op or is it?
I want to say this is super embarrassing.
even
I don't know.
matter.
I think
It doesn't
it's
even
like 6.
Once you go
voices,
beyond
might be
2,
8.
it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. But regardless, all that this synth is doing is it's making a very, very short click sound.
Okay.
And this is kind of similar to how you approach sidechaining on the Dig Attack, where you have a separate track with a different kick drum that you're using to trigger your compressor. I like using a really short click instead of a kick sound
Because you can shape it with a compressor.
yeah, you can use the compressor settings to kind of dial things in a little bit easier. So I have this MIDI track that's just making a very short click, and if we go to the input routing, because it's a MIDI track, you can route MIDI messages from other places to this track. So in this case, the input is the drum rack here, and then you can dive inside of the drum rack. So instead of listening to at the very top, we're going to be listening to
rack.
every note that gets played on the drum rack is going to trigger this.
Okay.
But instead, we just go down to just the kick drum. So now whenever the kick plays, you can see this note right here is going. So the kick is now triggering this other MIDI track.
I am lost. I'm a little lost. Sorry.
Yeah, no, of course.
Okay, so where is the compressor?
So the compressor is on the bass.
Okay, the compressor's
we
on
haven't
here.
gotten to the compressor quite yet. We're just talking about.
So right now we're just sending
a
MIDI
trigger.
to a track.
Yeah,
And then we're going to have the compressor listen
listen to that.
to
track.
that. So first we need to send the data to the track. Then we have the compressor do it.
Yep.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it.
So in fact, before we even get to the compressor, let's just go back to here. You'll see the output I have for this track is set to sends only, so we don't hear it. But I'm gonna set that to main, so we're gonna hear.
Your click. Okay, I got it.
That's the click track that we're using. So now I'm gonna send this back to sends only, so that way it's not going. We're not gonna hear it.
Okay. So this is like muting, but not muting.
Yeah. Okay, they don't change the color here. So on the computer, if you set a track to sends only,
It's like orange or something.
the VU meter shows up as blue. So you still see signal that's going. In this case, we can see this signal here.
So this is
but
something
it's
they need to address.
that would be nice if they addressed it, because then you could quickly tell, like, oh, this is a sends only track. You know, we're not.
That would be
we're not
useful
hearing it.
for this workflow.
Yeah. And for instance, like you can see these two tracks are muted and they're grayed out, but you can still see that signal's coming through.
Got it.
So, okay, so we have the kick drum triggering a synth, and we're not listening to the synth. It's just not going out. Then if we go back to the bass track, whenever you see a device that has this little caret or kind of L in the corner, that means that it has another set of menus that you can open up.
Okay.
So if we press this again, you can see that there's 2 menus down here.
Okay.
Some devices will have 8 menus. Some devices will have more, like operator, because there's so many controls. It has a ton of these banks.
Those are the ones we just stay away from on push 3.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I've like, I think it's like a good idea to what you were saying, like learn the drum thing, like learn it really well, or even learn the technique really well. I think that applies to like all the stuff on any device in general. Is like some devices are really simple, like on like a Digitone, like the other machines are really pretty basic, right? So it's like you learn one and you kind of learn them all. But on here, that's not the case. Like
not always, yeah.
Yeah,
And
like wavetable is deep, operator's deep, drift is simpler, and stuff like that. I would say like learn one of the simpler ones really, really well.
Yeah. Drift is great. I love drift. I use it all the time.
And it's in the Move.
It's on the Move as well. Yeah.
The full version of drift, right?
Yeah.
Pretty
So
cool.
you can save your favorite drift patches and copy those over to Move.
Very sick.
Yeah, and I think especially when it comes to sound design stuff on Push, there's certain things that just are going to be faster with a keyboard and mouse and a screen.
I mean, that's gonna be the case with like
Building up complicated stuff
with a
is
lot of stuff.
just because you can visualize it better on a big screen. You're not constrained to just this display and 8 knobs and buttons at the same time. You have a lot more opportunity to see what's going on and fiddle with stuff. So especially for super complicated things, I think regardless of how much they improve the Push standalone experience, there's some aspects that are just not going to make sense to do standalone.
I think I do want to get back to like doing this, but on that note, like with what you're saying, there are some aspects of like standalone hardware, and that's what like we're going to be comparing this to standalone hardware. 'Cause that's what the whole point is. This is about Push 3 standalone, and not Push 3 controlling Ableton. Because from my perspective, this is not Ableton. It is, of course, and I know that. But to me, I'm not thinking Ableton. I'm thinking a Push 3, and like I'm treating it like it's another one of these groove boxes in my studio.
You're not using your DAW brain.
I'm not using DAW brain at all, and I don't want to. That's kind of the point of standalone for me, is like to not do that. And but on like other groove boxes, they take liberties and they take some expectations away, or they guardrail things, or they garden you in right into this beautiful playground where they're like, okay, but you can't go over there, and that's fine. And you're like, okay, well, I have the essentials that you need. I think that there is a user perspective on Push 3 coming from this like these two worlds, where you have the Ableton user who grabs Push 3 and they go, I can't do what I do in Ableton very easily, and so I'm frustrated.
For sure.
And then you have the dawless guy who's playing on his Electron boxes and stuff, and he comes over here and he goes, I am confused and I'm lost. There's too much to do.
Yeah.
But there's also, I can't do what I do on my Electron box super fast.
Right.
And so like you have and they seem to be they're conflicting with each other.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's the middle ground, which you seem to have found, and I want to find.
Yeah, and just for a little bit of background too. So I started making electronic music on Reason in like 2009-ish. And then in 2018, I finally made a switch to Push and Ableton. And I picked up the Push and Ableton at the same time. So I was learning
really
Ableton
helpful.
while I was learning Push. And I spent a month of like just not going to touch the keyboard and mouse. What can I do with just Push? And then once I got comfortable there, I said, okay, let's go back to the keyboard and mouse. What do these devices look like in the program instead of on this screen, right? So I think the way that I've learned this device is intertwined quite deeply with how I use Live in general. And I think a lot of people probably learn Live without getting any hardware at all, and then pick up the device.
I learned Live by Overbridge, Digitact 1 and Overbridge, and that's what I use to record tracks.
So it's a bit of like a mindset shift, just as if you're going from the M8 to the Octatrack or whatever, right? Like that you're gonna approach the same problem in a slightly different way. And I think part of the weird nuance there is you're still under the hood. It's the same set of levers and pulleys. It's just wrapped in a different package, and certain things are faster or less fast. And if you're reliant on a workflow that is less fast on the push, that's a super frustrating place to be. So
It's like you gotta
finding
learn.
those, you have to find those friction points and then figure out, okay, what's actually the faster way to do this on push.
Right.
And that's
You have to commit to this one pretty hard. I mean, you do on anything, and anybody who says otherwise about any other piece of equipment, I think, is just fooling
dork.
themselves. Yeah, it's a pretty dorky thing to think. But it's like you really do need to deeply commit to it.
Yeah. And similar to the Octatrack, push can do so much, but you're going to deal with context switching, you're going to deal with complexity overload, and like the Octatrack kind of solves this by saying, here are the things you can do. Now choose of those things one or two.
Well, that's what
to
the
do per
Groovebox
project.
does in general.
Yeah.
That is the perspective of Groovebox.
Right.
Is like, here's your playground, and it is this limited number of tools. Whereas this device was meant to encapsulate Ableton into a singular machine. And that is a ton. And they are.
Some of those guardrails just don't exist.
Yeah.
So you instinctively think, oh, I can do XYZ. Let's do XYZ all at the same time.
Like recording into the arranger.
Yeah.
Is like a hidden thing that happens in here, but
you
you
can record to
You can
it.
actually do that.
You can't look at it. That would be
Pretty sick.
Yeah, Ableton devs, arrangement view.
They're gonna do it, I imagine. Well,
automation view
Automation view.
first, then arrangement view. Those two, I think, would be
automation
absolutely
view
stellar.
first. We need that first.
Yeah.
Well, finish your little tutorial.
Okay, sorry, we've
I am
completely
curious.
gone off the rails here,
And we
but-
will continue to go off the rails.
Of course,
The
of course.
conversation is so good. That's how the good stuff happens.
Okay, so just to recap, we have a drum rack here. The kick drum pad is triggering this synth voice, which is creating a very short click. We're not hearing that. It's just going to the sends. And then we have, on this track, we have a compressor. If we click into the compressor, there's this other tab here called sidechain. Now this is already set up, so it won't always look like this when you're setting it up for the first time. Ooh, this is kind of nice. I didn't realize that they've added coloration based on the track. So sidechain trigger is looking blue here,
it's a send.
and this track here is blue. Well, it's using the track colors.
it's using
so,
the track colors.
So let's jump to number 3, this home piano. So now it's orange.
Right. Okay. Cool.
That's kind of cool. I don't know if that's like a new thing or maybe I just haven't noticed it. Anyway, so what we're doing now, we're on the compressor. We are on the sidechain tab, or yeah, I guess tab.
So this channel, just going back to the MIDI thing, right? We were sending the MIDI data out to here. Did sidechain trig, this wouldn't have existed before?
So sidechain trig is the name of the track.
Right. But I
Yeah.
mean, this would have not seen that had you not had already set it up?
Yeah, so for instance, we could actually bypass the sidechain trigger track entirely and instead select drum rack and then select our kick drum here.
Okay, because this
So-
is the natural progression, I think, that a typical
Yeah.
user would go. I'm going to go to my drum rack, I'm going to find my kick drum, and
Right.
that's going to be my sidechain source.
Yeah.
But
So-
you had something
So
different.
the way that I do it is slightly different, and that's just because that's the way I like doing it on the computer.
Okay.
And I was able to, I just saved that in my template, basically. So instinctively for me, I just jump straight to this sidechain trigger. But yeah, so here we're going to go down to the sidechain trigger, which is that operator synth. And because that synth is set to sends only, if you select post mixer here, you won't hear anything because it's not going out of the mixer.
Got it.
So instead what we do is we set to post effects. You could do pre-effects, but it depends if you want to put a bunch of effects on there to adjust things. For side chaining, probably not important.
I don't think so.
So just do post effects here. And then the last piece here is we set the sidechain trigger to external. Otherwise, it's just listening to itself to control the compressor.
Okay.
Then you just do typical things, pull the threshold all the way down, ratio all the way up, and then you can adjust the attack and release and the model.
Okay.
So if we hit play here, we can see the trigger is happening, and you can hear it as well.
Dope.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was fast, like that was something that you could do in 10 seconds, right?
Yeah. I think I mean, we could time it if we
No,
really
no,
wanted
no,
to get
no,
crazy,
we're
but
fine.
yeah, it's a couple seconds. But speaking of other things that I would love to see from a workflow perspective, uh, you can't you can duplicate devices, but you can't copy paste them. So you can't take say I set up the compressor on the bass drum
that's a big
or
deal.
the bass track, and I want to put this on a group or some other synth. There's kind of two ways to approach it. One is you just go to the other thing, you create a new compressor device here, and then you just manually rebuild it, right? So you go to sidechain, you select sidechain trigger, external, post effects, threshold down, ratio up, and then adjust.
It's about 9 seconds.
Perfect. You're counting. Good. The other way to do it is you save this to your user library, but it doesn't always pick because the track listing is per project. You might not always be able to use a preset that has a sidechain trigger set because that's dependent on tracks in that project, right?
Right.
So ideally, the way that I do this on the computer is I set up the compressor once, Control C. Save the project. Every action I save the project. I'm one of those terminal saver people. I'm just constantly saving for no reason. But what I would do is I would set up the compressor. I would Control C, go over to the next track that I want to put it on, Control V, and you're done. And that's 1 second and virtually no thinking. We do have the ability to duplicate stuff. You can duplicate the same device on this track, right? Like I can press duplicate, but it immediately puts it next to the other device. So there isn't a way to kind of quick copy
And you
between
can't
tracks.
hold that down and move that around in the chain like you can with groups?
You can move it around in the chain, but you can't move it to a different track.
Okay.
So that's kind of one bottleneck that
Seems like kind of a big
still kind of
bottleneck.
bothers me. I mean, yeah, but there's all sorts of other approaches that you can take for this, right? So kind of going back to there's a million ways to skin the cat here. You could either put a compressor and set it up on every single track, or you can just group all of your tracks together and set the compressor up on the group, and then you only have to worry about one compressor.
Right. Which is what you would do. typically.
Yeah. So, another part of my workflow during the little jam at the beginning, using the MIDI Fighter Twister, in my template, I recently changed up the ordering of these and kind of what I normally put where, but the concept is the same. I have 4 tracks that are acting as my bus tracks. These are audio tracks.
Okay.
You can also just make groups and set them up that way. I like doing it this way because on push, if they're using audio tracks, they don't have to be encapsulating your other tracks. So I can basically hide the audio routing and I can separate the audio routing from what I see on the push. This way, I can have the drum rack track directly next to, a synth or vocals or whatever, and they're running to different buses, but visually they're right next to each other. So in this case, I have this group called mix groups, and I have, of course, the sidechain trigger that we talked about earlier, and then I've got 4 tracks here. And in this case, I'm running the drums and actually just the drums through the percussion track. And I'm running the bass through vocal for some reason. But synths, the other synths are running into this, and then I have a vocals and atmosphere one. And typically, I run all of my tracks through one of these 4 audio channels. And these audio channels have stuff mapped to them directly. So in this case, if we jump over to the mixer view, you can see all the audio levels for them here. And the bottom row of knobs here are connected directly to the volumes of those tracks, right? So this is the percussion one. We can see this is the focal group.
Is this something that is now,
and,
now that there's MIDI on here, is it MIDI learn? So is it just hit a button, turn a knob, and it works? Or is there a select CC menu?
Yeah, actually, let's jump into that. So if you go into settings, you have previously we had access to input and output, so you can choose what MIDI devices you're listening to and kind of how they're configured. There's also this magical control script section, which we're gonna not talk about right now. But the settings option, now that there's a button here, and this gets you to the MIDI mapping section. So here you can see all the things that I've already mapped, and it even tells you what CC value on the controller is connected to what thing. So the first row here is which track you're on. The second row is what it is connected to. And then the third row is what CC messages specifically.
Honestly, this is absolutely fire.
It's awesome.
Yeah, this is really cool. And like the fact that we have our takeover modes available in a min-max setting. This is very good. This is really implemented quite well.
Yeah. So what we can do, let's go down to let's see. Let's select
Well, how do you do like MIDI learn?
So from this menu, let's see. You click add mapping here. Let me jump over to this bank. I don't have anything hooked up for this bank right now, just because I'm kind of trying other stuff out with it, and I don't feel comfortable enough with how any of it's configured to put it in my template.
Got it. So
there's a little iteration to do there. But let's say that we wanted to map this knob to, let's say, let's add an effect actually here. I'm gonna click undo and back out of this. Press exit to save. Press save to exit. Okay, sorry. We're out of MIDI mapping mode. Let me just put on a device here so that we can kind of show this off. So this is going to be really weird because it's on the drum group, but let's put a reverb here. So we'll just choose like a default reverb. If we hit play, that's the bass track. Muted the drum track. Actually, wait, where did I put this? Sorry, I'm getting myself confused. I put this on the vocals and atmosphere track. Let me delete this, and we'll just jump over to the drum track. Keep it very simple and straightforward. Device collections. I've grouped my collections for instruments at the top, X, and then utilities and external stuff. This green one is mislabeled because previously I had like CV utilities and external audio effects and stuff in its own group, but I've kind of started putting them together.
Cool.
So that's kind of roughly how I organize these things. But let's go ahead and just grab echo. So we just play drums here. Oh, right, I turned the volume down. I think I might have goofed something up. There we go. Okay, so we have the drums. We go back to here. Oh, the echo is on just one drum. So we'll do this, pull it out so that it's affecting everything. Now we can hear it.
Okay. So say I want to attach something to the size.
Yeah. So say the rate here, right?
Oh yeah, the range.
So
That's what I meant actually. That's actually, yeah.
Good.
Let's do that.
Perfect. Okay. So so we have this page. Nothing's mapped here. We go over to the MIDI mapping section. We press add mapping. We select this so you can see what control it's currently looking at, like what's selected. And then we've selected this knob here, which is showing up as channel 1 CC16. And then it says press save to exit MIDI mapping. So
Okay.
press save. Now, if I change this knob, you can see that we can adjust the size here. And then we can go back to the MIDI mapping section, and let's go ahead and find this mapping. Should be under I think it'll be under echo. I only ever dig in here if I run into a problem. So most of the time, I'm actually not using this menu. Here we go. Okay, drum rack, echo, left delay, sync rate, CC16. So now we can adjust the minimum and maximum values here. It seems to be locked up actually. What the heck? What is going on? Change the takeover modes. Interesting. Let's see if we can adjust this one. We can. Okay, so maybe this... There might still be some bugs around here. So this might be a situation where... I don't know if this is intended behavior or not. Typically, you can adjust the min and max for anything that you map to. But yeah, now we have a knob connected here. And if you were to save this project and copy it to your computer, that mapping would stay in the project. So if you plugged in your controller to the computer, you could have access to that as well.
Cool. That didn't seem too tough and very useful. So maybe I will be pairing my Noid Side Drop with my Push 3 later this evening.
It gets a little out of hand if, like, the more mappings you add, right? So this
menu,
list will get super deep.
It's really useful, but yeah, it is like, that's a bit much.
Right. And in a pinch, excellent.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a computer in case something got mapped incorrectly, or maybe you forgot to save the version or load the version that has all the right mappings to push standalone from your computer, so you can just go in and add stuff or fix things. So I have used it for that in the past, but again, this is one of those things where it's just a faster workflow with a keyboard and a mouse.
Right. And we can acknowledge that. It doesn't have to be just on, but like Push 3 is meant to connect to your computer. So
but
that's
you
fair.
at least have access to doing that.
Yeah, if you were at a show, you're performing and you realize,
you're not totally screwed.
I need this mapping. I forgot to map this one control. It's a big deal to you.
Right.
You could fix it on your standalone. And I guess that is kind of like, that's really the superpower there, is that like, it's just possible. And that's most of the time when you're mapping controllers, you can't do it very easily. I mean, Electron's done a great job of how they've done it, so I applaud them for that. But typically, you have to go in and do like a sysx web thing.
Yeah.
When you're mapping stuff, and it sucks.
Right.
It's usually a pretty bad experience.
Yeah, or you have to go to the manual and scroll down to the bottom
and look
where
for
it's got the MIDI mapping table, and you have to like dig
you don't got to
through
do
there.
any of that here.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the MIDI Fighter Twister, there's a configuration utility. So I have already gone ahead and set up all the colors, what do the button presses do, what CCs do those use, things like that. But you know, if you're using another Groovebox, a lot of that stuff is not configurable. It's just, you know, track 1 filter is always CC 32 or whatever it may be.
So, like, I want to return back to this idea. Thank you for teaching me how to set up the sidechain and the MIDI, because these are the two things, like, for me as a user, like, this was really important to me, because what I need to do is be able to replicate exactly what I do in my current workflows, and I like to do, like, dub techno and housey electronica stuff, and I need to know how to do the sidechain thing on the Push 3, because I don't want to connect to my computer if I don't have to, and I need how to map my controller, even though I would use my computer for that particular purpose, because it might be faster, but it seems like it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
No. Yeah.
But like going back, like say like, okay, back in 2023, Push 3 comes out and blah, blah, blah. It's got some bugs and stuff, and they've ironed out most of that stuff, save for maybe this delayed thing. And is there anything like, could you say that you're doing differently now that you weren't doing when it first released? Or is it still the same for you?
I'd say it's mostly the same. Just things have gotten smoother.
Are you going into your computer less than you were before? Is it like saving you any of that experience? Because I know you're gonna go to your computer because like you're not gonna sacrifice your sound that you like over avoiding your computer.
Right. Yeah, and I'll be honest. Like I grew up on computers. I know a lot of people kind of have this aversion to dealing with big bad screen. And I'm colorblind, so big bad screen looks like big good screen, in my opinion. A lot of times I just use it in controller mode. I have the stuff on my computer. Whenever I need to, I can just go do computer things with the keyboard and mouse. But I still, use the workflow is mostly similar when I'm using Push, even as a controller. But something that has changed that's been monumental is I think there's a YouTube creator named Push Patterns.
I've seen him.
His videos have started showing up on my feed, and I've been watching them. And I really like his content.
He's a good teacher.
He's a great teacher. Seems like a pretty cool guy. Haven't met him, but seems great. He was doing a video kind of breaking down how the modulators work, and early on, you couldn't map any of the modulator devices from the Push user interface to other things. And I'll open up another project so we can kind of dive into that a little bit.
I would love that.
But previously, there was a they're still making awesome devices. There's a company, Elizabeth Homeland, and they make all sorts of Max for Live devices. One of the things that they did was, because all the modulator devices in Ableton are Max for Live, they're just bundled.
Is that Ableton just Max for Live with like a skin on it essentially? Or am I like,
no,
I got that wrong?
No, there's kind of different classes of devices. So most of the native devices are written, I believe, in C or C++.
Okay,
And they're just compiled, and they're just embedded directly in the program. But because Max for Live makes things so convenient to prototype, a lot of the native devices were originally prototyped in Max.
Okay.
And then they wrote them, I guess, in a more efficient way.
I think that's how the Digitone was even created. I believe S, who made the Digitone, prototyped it in Max.
That makes sense.
Because he's a Max creator, and that's like what he does now.
Yeah. Fours also makes awesome. S's company. They make really great.
That's what I'm referring to.
But anyway, sorry, this is a super long tangent. Elizabeth Homeland, they basically modified all of the built-in Max for Live modulator devices and added some user interface stuff so that you could map them. Which is, I was using those for quite a while. So I think if we dig into, we don't have to, but if you look at the like user library that I have on Push Standalone, I have a lot of those devices. But with the latest update, you don't need to do that anymore, because it's just built in natively. So let me pull up a slightly different project.
Yeah, I would love to hear another track if you're down to play it, or like,
for sure,
whatever.
Yeah, so we were talking earlier about using this in the hammock, which I'm a big proponent of. This next thing, I didn't write it in the hammock. I wrote it in my back porch, but I was feeling very hammocky.
But you were sitting in a lounge chair.
I was, yes, yeah.
This is important. It's about to be summer, so
I have a pair of the AIAIA or
what's that?
the Unit 4 speakers.
Okay.
And I love those things. Like I have some Atoms in my studio, but for portability, my wife also loves those speakers. She steals them from me all the time just to like watch shows or listen to music while she's gardening. So I bring those all over the place, and so I set those up in my backyard, and then I can kind of just jam around on Push. So this was something that I wrote while I was jamming around, and this uses gates and some other kind of built-in modulator devices.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful track. I mean, honestly, you're great at making music on here, and you're great at teaching me the push 3. And you make these amazing arguments for using this device, like because your music is good. So it's like listening to you do it. When I make music on the push 3, it doesn't turn out like that.
Well, this is me with the M8. I watch you do your magic, and I'm like, oh, the M8's easy. And I pull open my M8, and then I just stare at like a kick drum. And then I feel bad about myself for a little bit. And then I remember, right. He is a true wizard at this thing. And it's not the device, it's the person. So
it's definitely, I mean, I haven't put the time in that you put into it despite me owning it. We bought it the same day and we both owned them for the same period of time. But it looks like you just know what you're doing. You're moving around. The presentation of the Push 3 seems like, to me, like kind of unmatched as far as like other devices go. Like I love the way my Electron stuff goes, and I think I've mentioned this before on stream, and maybe I've said this to you before. I was working with this guitar player of a prominent band, and I was teaching them Electron. Yeah, I was teaching them some Electron stuff, and they were telling me the story about picking out a guitar, and they were like, because they're a guitar player, right? Mm-hmm. And so their friend was like, you're a professional guitar player who's had success. I'm going to go to Guitar Center and I'm going to pick out a guitar, right? And this is, I love the story because it's true and I feel it deeply. And his buddy's like, what guitar should I get if I go into, Emerald City Guitars, or I go into Guitar Center, whatever guitar store you go to? And he's like, find the one that looks the best when you put it on and you play and you look yourself in the mirror and you go, damn, I just want to play that guitar.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about how it feels or even how it sounds, partly. It's about, will you go and play that guitar today? Mm-hmm. And that's going to get you good at guitar because you're going to be drawn to playing the guitar. Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about a lot of my hardware. That's how I feel about Eurorack. Like Eurorack goes, man, I want to play with that. Mm-hmm. It's weird. Look, buttons and knobs and all that. Push 3's got that look. When you see like this UI start bubbling up with the EQ, the spectrum and stuff, and you go, man, this is so cool. This is like, looks like the radar detector from Alien Isolation or something, you know what I mean? And you're drawn into the experience. I want to touch the Push 3, and I think,
well, you can.
And you can, and I can. When I go back to too, like talking about, not just about like how far it's come from 2023 to 2026, but something that you brought up to me, and I think it's so true, and it's about like the Push 3, to program the Push 3 versus programming, say, an Electron box, versus programming your Eurorack, versus programming your DAW on your computer, like your actual DAW on your computer, versus programming any other device, say for an MPC keys. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of devices that maybe like are similar in how you would program. Like an MPC keys, if you're not using your key bed on the MPC keys,
you're a goofball.
You're kind of,
what are you doing?
You're not taking advantage of what they offer to you and the tools and what the expectation is of the device. It's built around the key bed. The Push 3 says, look at this pad, right? This pad section is these beautiful MPE pads. This is the flagship experience of the Push 3 is the pads. And if you're not using the MPE, not necessarily the MPE, but if you're not at least using the pads as a way to express your programming, you are gonna move really, really slow, right?
Well, and you're kind of missing the point of it. Yeah, like for certain devices, they have different workflows that they're optimized for.
This is what I'm getting.
Yeah, and this is like, it's really optimized around the pads, and you can get into the weeds about like what context the pads are in and all sorts of other crazy stuff going on. But at the end of the day, like, I haven't done the math here, but I want to say it's 60% of the physical surface is these pads.
That's what I'm saying. It's like this is, if you're not going to use the pads and like learn how to do your isometric keyboard and like take advantage of the drum programming. Like for me, I want to build a drum programming or a drum rack that has my mirrored drum kits, because I love to play the mirrored drum kit idea. And technically, I could build one that's like 64.
Yeah, you
like
get real
4
nuts
different
with it.
kits of mirrored drum pads, and like I could really go crazy and build a very customized experience. What I really want, because we have like, I'm down to do, we'll probably do this for like another hour maybe.
Deal.
If you're up for it.
Sure, man.
But what I would really like to do is to like go into a new a fresh project,
Yeah.
like completely from scratch, and kind of just like
Just walk
ask
through
questions a little bit, and like, yeah, kind of just see this in action
Sure.
since we have some time, quite a bit of time. And I want to know, like, what are the go-tos? I know, like, you have some preset ideas that you're going to be like, I always set up these 4 audio buses, and these are my send tracks, and I put these particular effects on it. And, like, you have a workflow that you do immediately. Let's see a little bit of that in
Okay.
action, if you're
Yeah.
down
Yeah,
to
for
put
sure.
yourself on
Yeah.
full on display here.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, before we jump into that, one of the other, I just want to show like one kind of fun thing that I was goofing around with this project in particular, is we're looking at the compressor with sidechain inputs, but there's another device in Ableton called the gate, and that also has a sidechain input system.
Okay.
And I use this all the time. This has been one of my like favorite tricks.
I heard a lot of like
Yeah,
that wasn't
kinda
necessarily a
stuttery-
sidechain pumping. It was like
No, that was like gating. It
was gating, yeah.
Yeah. So I did this a lot on my last album and the EPs that I put out before then, where I take some kind of complex, almost like wall of sound or kind of chord sound, and then I gate it to another instrument or a loop, and it gets you build some really interesting
oh no, I
dynamics
love
and kind of almost a percussiveness.
Yeah.
You can bring like a percussiveness to something that is not normally like a percussive thing.
Right.
So in this case, those big washy chord stabs. Let me just I'm going to turn the echo down just so that we can just hear this. And let me mute this for a moment. So I'll just play this. So this is an MPE. This is a default, or not a default. This is an MPE preset. That's just part of Live. And if we look at the clip here, you'll notice it is just a bunch of chords, or it's one chord. It's not even a bunch of chords. It's just one chord for this one pad. And then this clip here is a different chord. Now, as much as I've spent time playing the keys on here, every once in a, so I'm recovering from a broken wrist, so it's been a while since
That's
I've
true, I
like played. So my muscle memory, I'm still kind of returning some of these skills and kind of sharpening again.
Okay.
And so sometimes I just can't play chord progressions easily. But because we have this clip launcher view, you don't have to make all of your chords in the same clip to start.
Isn't there an
you can have
argument for
separate-
like just opening up a different layout and programming the chords, like holding a step down and go do 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 do?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can totally do that as well. One of the reasons why I like doing it this way is because once you have those chords, playing the chords becomes part of the performance as well. So like in that jam,
Like launching the clip.
yeah. So as I was changing clips here, the bass and the chords are paired together. So the bass note, or the bass clip, is just playing the same kind of root note, and then when I switch chords, that root note changes. And of course, the chords are sounding a lot more interesting than just a sustained chord like we just heard here.
Right.
And the reason for that is I put it in an audio effect just so that I could map the threshold, so I could have a little easy access to the threshold. But this is a gate device that is listening to this green track. So let me mute the chords, and I'll go over to this green track, and let me change its output off of sends only and go to main. So now we can hear what this sounds like. So this is from a sample pack that has, I think it's called cassette sample pack, and it's all these like goofy, like they just took a cassette and like jingled it around. And then
Literally, yeah.
this is the same sample. I'm just taking a different loop from the sample, and I'm using that to gate the chords. So if I
So you're using the dynamics from this sample pack to turn the gate on and off.
exactly. So if we jump over here, we go to gate. We've gone into the sidechain input. We're selecting again that green track here. So now if I play both of these, you get this stuttering effect that's relative to that other loop.
Which would be a real pain in the ass to program.
Yeah. Well, once you work out the chords, now having to like do this
This is
dynamic
something
effect
I can't
is
do
tricky.
on my on my like Electron stuff.
Right, and if we wanted to, we could change this up. We could put a different loop in here or a different sample or whatever and get a completely different pattern.
You could build a whole workflow around this kind of stuff.
Right.
Which is kind of what you, I guess, did.
Yeah, yeah. And as I'm sitting in the backyard, I'm just fiddling around with this, and then you put a delay on it, and all of a sudden you're in dub techno land. Dub techno land. Dub techno land.
Dub techo. I'll go there.
Dub techo. It's the new Art Deco. Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of a.
That's cool.
These
No, I
are the
love
sort
this.
of
This
kind
is
of
great little
fun
workflow
things
stuff.
to goof around with.
We're gonna have to do this again, where I do this and you switch spots.
Of course. Yeah.
And you just tell me how bad I am doing. But yeah, let's do it. Let's. I'm excited to jump into this new set and like watch a little bit of work happen here.
Cool. Okay.
So what are you gonna do first?
All right. First, I'm gonna scream really loud.
Okay.
And
then sample that.
Yeah, we're gonna sample that. No, so this is my default template. If you go into templates, there's a bunch of like preset ones that come with Ableton. You can see I've got a couple weird ones in here, but this is one that I've kind of been iterating on. So we can also just get rid of the template if we want to start completely fresh. But just to walk through how the template works, it's kind of what I discussed earlier. So we've got that sidechain trigger track here. We have 4 audio groups, and then we have a drum rack.
What is focal?
Oh, typically I've been doing that for like the focal elements of a track.
Focal?
Yeah,
F?
like the focus.
Oh, the focus.
Yeah. So you know,
I've not heard this word used in context of music. Focal.
Yeah. So say you have.
I was like, does Jordan not know how to spell vocal?
I don't. I didn't want to admit that, but now you're making me say it.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't know how to spell vocal. I thought it was a silent F.
Wait, are we being serious?
No.
Okay.
So the way that I like to think about music is, regardless of all the layers and stuff you have going on, there's kind of 3 main things that I want that the listener can kind of focus on at any given point in time. So whether that's a lead line or a bass or drums or whatever. And when I was setting up this template.
Is this always what you do?
Yeah.
You always think this thought?
Yeah.
This is news to me.
Yeah,
like,
so I kind of make this into my
This is
template.
really cool. This is some like workflow stuff.
Yeah. So like the chord progression might not be the focus.
I mean,
It creates a vibe, you know, but it might not be like the key thing that you want the listener to hear. So I've broken it up this way so that I have, when I'm preparing things for a performance, I have one channel that I can know, like, hey, this is what the focus of, you know, this section is or whatever. That way I don't have to remember, like, okay, in song 2, the 3rd synth line is the focal
what I
one.
do, yeah.
And that 3rd synth line for this track lives on channel 4. But on song 3, the focus is the bass, and that lives on channel 2. So like I'm trying to avoid forcing myself to memorize as much of these song specific things as possible, so that I can just focus on doing a performance and kind of being more improvisational.
Okay. That's what I do with the macros.
Yeah.
So I don't even think I would like I get what you're saying.
Exactly.
I like that
Yeah,
idea.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
this is really cool. For me, I would just be like, I'm going to make this macro far left is always going to do this specific thing that will, and I'll create the focal point through that macro.
Yeah, and having these kind of, it's essentially a guardrail I'm putting up for myself.
Okay.
So kind of like how when you did that stream with Circo and he was talking about his improvisational techno setup, how he sets up these guardrails by using a specific key on his Oxy and hitting random on the Oxy so that it comes up with things, and then it allows him to focus on other things. So he doesn't have to worry about, like, am I in key? There's an argument to be made within techno. What does key mean? But the point is, you set up these workflow things so that you can focus on something else. So another part of this is the MIDI fighter twister mapping that I have set up. So the bottom row is volumes for these 4 channels, and it's always in this order. So I know that this is my percussion volume and percussion mute, right? I even have this across multiple banks, right? So you can have many banks here, and you'll notice if I mute the percussion channel here and I switch to a different bank, it stays muted. And if we go over to push and we unmute that percussion channel, it unmutes here. So like MIDI mappings and all these things are kind of ways to offload brain power away from things that are not creative and kind of more technical.
What's really
so that
funny
you can be more creative
about that is that I think the average like user that's like maybe not gone as deep as you would think MIDI mapping is a way to offload that like that. I 100% agree because I do this and I've been doing it long enough, but I think I meet with so many people that are new that aspect of it is brain destruction. It's the opposite of offload. It is the more things to do. It's another thing.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, if you have to, the other thing is if you have to learn it, you're actively spending brain power to learn the thing.
Right.
So yeah, if you're just learning about how MIDI mapping works, like this is a whole goat rodeo of stuff to go learn. But
goat rodeo?
Yeah.
Skinny cats and goat rodeos?
It's the worst kind of rodeo because they don't anyway. Yeah, so kind of setting up and iterating on the MIDI template is part of making the whole workflow process smoother. So another aspect, so we've got the volumes here, the green, you'll notice if I close up the mix groups here, you'll notice the 2 send return tracks. The reverb is blue and the delay is green. And you'll notice here that we got blue and green.
Those are your 4 groups.
Yeah, so
for those reverbs.
Yeah, each column here is one of the 4 groups, and then we got volumes at the bottom, and then we have delay sends on the green. It's not showing up quite right on the screen. They're kind of hard to tell the difference. In person, it's much easier to tell. Then this row here is the reverb sends for each one of those.
Filters?
And then the tops are the filters. So you'll notice there's kind of a...
Is it a high pass, low pass?
Yep, exactly. And I have the button press resets it to the middle. So it's kind of DJ style filters. But yeah, these are all things that I've kind of slowly iterated on and figured out, okay, I like it when it works this way. You know, spend a couple tracks working in that fashion, and then you find out, oh, actually, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Or if I want to do this other thing, I actually, you know, maybe I should change how that thing works. So it's this constant iterative process.
Yeah, it's a fun thing. Like once you're getting comfortable with that.
Yeah. So all this to say, like this template that I'm working with, it didn't just like happen all in one go. Right. So there's all these
years of
it's just kind of building up these strategies. Like going back to the sidechain compressor thing. Like I didn't use another track to sidechain from the jump. I was using the kick drum directly to sidechain things. And then as I started going through it, I was like, okay, actually, I kind of like having this other.
Also, kind of like muting your kick drum and having your sidechain persist.
Absolutely.
Is a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to see. I love this, and I do want to. I would like to see maybe a project without the template.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't have a template.
Yeah.
So I like to see something that I would use
for sure.
Off the bat, if that's
yeah, of course. Actually, let's do this. Let's unplug this guy and chuck it across the room. I'll just set it down over here. And then we'll go ahead and just delete these things so that they're not in our way. Delete you, delete you, delete you. It's not deleted. What's going on here? Ableton. What are you doing? I thought I deleted these tracks. Track deleted reverb. It's still there. Okay, let's jump to a different default.
Are you on a beta?
I'm not. So
you could have lied.
I could have lied. But I'm not a liar. Let's just see what the quick start beat is. So this is just a default template. I don't know what's in here. I don't think I've ever opened this, but hopefully I'll be able to delete stuff, unlike in my template.
But why not just load up a new set? What would that have done different?
I have that template set as my default.
Oh.
So when you load up a new set, it immediately loads all that stuff up.
Okay.
Which is super convenient.
That is really convenient.
If you're trying to work
if you're at your stage,
right,
where I'm at mine, where I don't have this stuff yet. So.
Well, and it doesn't even necessarily mean like stages, but like Push 3 has ADAT IO, right? And I I have a Eurorack module called Optics that gets you 8 channels in and 8 channels out over ADAT. And so I have another template on my computer called Tape Recorder. And it's basically just it just has all those tracks pre-set up. So if I wanted to multi-track record a little modular jam, I just load up that template instead. So as you get deeper into it, you find all these different ways of working, and then you start realizing, I want a template for this, I want a template for that. You have the ability to mix and match all that stuff.
Dope. I mean, I do that with my Octatrack.
I don't know what's going on here, man.
Looks like
this is being a goofball. Let's do the old reboot. Let's see if that fixes it. It's been quite a while since I've had a crash not related to some weird Linux thing that I'm working on.
Honestly, like seeing stuff like this happening and like having that be live is why I like doing this live, because I don't like the idea of like these I
masking the problem.
I like cooking up a good YouTube video. Don't get me wrong. I like having it be like perfect and having all the language in there just exactly how I meant to say it, as opposed to what I actually recorded. That's great. But there's something really refreshing to me about seeing the reality of like what happens with the hardware. My Octatrack freezes. My Digitech freezes. My Deluge freezes. Like all of my stuff freezes. And Sephora, my wife, would be like, "It's hardware. It's gonna fail."
Right.
And I'm always like, that is not the answer that I want. But I mean, that is the truth. But I have less often seeing this fail in 2026 compared to
they've worked out a lot of
failing in 2026, which is like the majority of things.
There we go. Okay, we're working here. I think it might have gotten a little goofed up when I disconnected the USB MIDI device. Not quite sure what's going on there, but I loaded up the default template here on a fresh project. I was able to delete the mix groups group and the 2 send returns, and then just to get us even more default.
Yeah, this looks
delete
like
the drum rack.
This looks like what I'm used to seeing when I boot up.
Yeah, so I think the default or the stock default is 2 audio tracks, 2 MIDI tracks.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a little bit of directorial stuff if that's cool, but very, very little. You do what you do, but I'm curious. Like, so if I'm you're pretending to be me, so to speak, or a new user, and on my first instrument, I'm looking for some inspiration for. What would you recommend? So, and let me just tell you what I do. And how this has been a fail for me, but has been really fun.
Actually, do you want to just walk me through what you would do?
No. I'm so incredibly slow on the Push 3.
Okay.
And
this is a safe space.
I hope so. But what I end up doing is I'll go to like the multi-sample collection and I'll take advantage of stuff that's like mapped to the MPE pads, and I'll grab like something like a French horn or violins and orchestral instruments, stuff that I just don't have naturally in my studio. And I'll go in and I'll start playing orchestral stuff. It leads me nowhere except for just to enjoy myself, which is great, and that's fine, but I don't end up making any music really with it. I just enjoy the sounds and play stuff like you do in life, existing.
For sure.
That doesn't work well for me compared to like what I want to do with my electronic music. Is I like to make like dope techno and house and techno and electronica and synthwave and all that kind of stuff. And I have a hard time actually making those genres on my Push. So say I wanted to make some dope techno. I know that you know how to make a tasty minor triad on here.
Hell yeah.
If you were to take me to making like getting started on a project like that, what would you do?
Yeah. It's a good question. So especially right now where Push 3 they've added a lot of stuff, and we've kind of gone over some of the really nice quality of life improvements. One of the areas that is still a bit tricky, I'm seeing a couple people mention this in the chat, the browser on Push, like the user interface for the browser on here is still pretty rough. So there's a couple ways that you can approach it that will make your life a bit easier.
But could it even ever get better? I think like the device itself is like not designed to, I don't know, the browser is just always going to be this like
they've added like a way to kind of filter for specific things. So actually let's instead of just hypothetically talking about it, we can just dive right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
We have a MIDI track here. I'm gonna go to we could either go to collections and just grab a specific synth here. So in this case, say let's just grab drift. This is just the default drift patch here. You'll notice that there's this filter option, and you can browse through all sorts of stuff. So you can choose like specific sounds.
Has this filter thing always been there for the instruments, or is this newer?
This is newer, but it has been around for a little while.
Okay.
So this is gonna be browsing things relative to drift. So actually, before we go into that, let's just delete drift here, and let's go back to instruments. So if we go to instruments, we've got this filter option. We can browse through sounds. So like one of the places where I like to start personally is I go to piano and keys, and I'll just interesting. It's showing specific devices. Let's go to instrument rack because a lot of presets are actually wrapped in an instrument rack. So there's other effects loaded in. So if you go to a specific synth, you might not have access to viewing all of the same sounds that you would just from the instrument rack. So I'll turn preview on, and then we're just gonna dig through here. Sure. E piano classic. How more generic could we go? Okay, cool. We've got a little sound here. Go ahead and add a couple more devices. We can go to effects. So this is one of the workarounds for the browser problem is to use the collections. So instead of having to go to this filter and kind of comb through however Ableton has tagged these different devices, you can kind of set up your own they call them collections. So yeah, your own collection of stuff so that you have quicker access to. And it's the very first thing in the list. This is why I like using it so much, because if you go like when I'm normally working and not talking through the process, you press the plus button and then I just double tap, and now I'm in my collections here. So the way that I like to work is I'll set up instruments at the top. These are kind of go-tos for me when I'm goofing around with stuff. This is both the drum rack and synthesizers. It's also things like sampler and simpler, and even some Max for Live devices like Sting 2. It's a really, really cool device that we're not going to dig into right now because it's a whole can of worms, but it's basically a acid style sequencer.
Oh, cool.
And without diving too deep into it, it can take over the grid. And it can do some really crazy stuff.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay,
this is a whole world to dive into.
Wow.
So we're gonna.
Well, going back to this I'm sorry to even push
No,
you in a
yeah.
specific direction of music, because I know you make your own style, but just if you were teaching me and I'm asking you as like my instructor today,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, I'm Matt and I want to make some dubby sounds
Yeah.
on here. The go-to is the E piano, or or you're
maybe
describing
not.
your favorite
that,
instrument.
That was just one I like to go to because it's relatively neutral. So if I'm playing stuff in and I don't like the sound, I can just swap out the sound after the fact.
So this is like where you go for your inspiration, and then maybe you'll switch to.
Yeah, if I'm in my hammock and I want to fiddle around, I'll pull up an E piano so I can kind of just jam and get a little bit of a vibe going, and then maybe switch it out later. But if we want to go directly into the dub techno kind of realm, instead what we can do, we can go to the device here. Let's go to probably a pad of some sort, and let's see.
Yeah, it seems like all the presets are showing up.
Yeah. Let's go some previews here.
Do you like? So there's so many presets, so many. They're one of those really sounded like a dubby. I mean, they all would work. Do you go to the presets and then you adjust a preset, or are you a like let's learn drift and dive into drift from scratch type person?
It kind of depends on the goal of the session, because I'll spend time making presets and making effect racks and setting up macros so that when I sit down and I want to make a song, I have stuff that I can go to and pull quickly. Because again, talking about workflow,
This
the
is somebody
speed
who,
that you can move.
you know
is
like you
essential.
know you have to do these things in order for the push 3 to be like usable for you.
Right.
Like if for me, so this is the stuff that this is like literally the golden stuff, I think, for somebody who's coming from like, I've owned it for a long time, but I bounce off of it really quick because I'm so ingrained in my own personal workflow that I already have so well established. So when I have a goal, I can accomplish it, right?
Yeah.
But I really, really do want to have like this. I want to get enmeshed with my relationship in here and like have this be something that I'm like, oh, I really love this device. And you have these workflows already cooked up.
And
But
some of
this
this
is
comes
stuff-
over from Live because the collection concept is in Ableton Live as well. So I've been kind of doing it this way for quite a while, and it was really convenient when I pulled over stuff onto Push Standalone. I was just able to use that same kind of collection organization system. So I'm sure there's like way better ways to do this than how I'm doing it. But again, just like MIDI
you're
mapping or
accomplishing
templates,
your goals, so
it's an iterative
working.
thing, right? So like this is the way that I'm working now. In 6 months or a year, realistically, probably not going to be working the exact same way. You know.
Okay.
Um.
Well, let's say I want to program
but yeah.
this like this minor triad chord,
Yeah. So
and I want to add like an effect to it or something too.
yeah, let's find like an interesting like single note sound that we can build chords out of. So nothing like too complicated. We also might want to just dial in some of these other options here. So character, maybe.
I don't even know you could do this.
Oh yeah. So you can have multiple filters going at the same time.
I mean, I think any of these sounds is honestly going to work. We just throw
Sure.
it.
Let's just use the Hera pad. I don't think I've played with this much, but that's kind of dubby right there.
Absolutely. We
Okay.
throw a nice delay, an echo on that. We're good to go. Beautiful.
Perfect.
Okay, here's the
Okay,
this
all right.
is the magic.
This is the
push
magic.
tree.
Yeah. So we just played a couple notes here, and without anything else, the transport's not running or nothing. This is my all-time favorite Ableton feature is the capture button. So I'm gonna press capture. Now let's go over to clip.
Okay.
I'm gonna pause because this is just
This is the important part. for me.
always Ableton is the best big brother. It's always listening. But not on creepy weird things.
It's not like a flock camera or
No, it's
something?
always listening to your MIDI input, which is the one that you want it to be listening to.
And it's
Yeah, so-
training. It's
yeah, they're gonna train the robots to play just as poorly as me. If anything, I'm poisoning whatever
poisoning the well.
yeah, whatever big data set they're making out of this, if they are. Anyway, so yeah, this just is always listening, and when you press that capture button, if you played something you liked, it will record it. If the transport is running, then it will
Just put it in the sequencer.
it'll put it in the sequencer exactly at the phase of when you played those things. So if you played something on the 2 instead of the 1, when you press the capture button, you'll see the notes show up at the 2 instead of the 1.
Okay. So you could jam.
Yeah, if the transport is not running, then it will try to automatically detect tempo, and it will try to detect the downbeat, which is not always where you actually want it. So sometimes, like in this case, transport wasn't running, no tempo was set. Actually, let's see. Okay, so these are all touch capacitive, which is really nice. So if you just touch them,
Paulian did that too.
yeah, that's so awesome. So this is the tempo knob here. So it thought that I was playing at 122.5
It's
BPM.
honestly a pretty good BPM for a
It
W
is.
track.
Let's get a little crazy with it and maybe turn it up to 126 here.
That's insane.
I know, I'm sacrilegious. Sorry. Okay, so now we have this MIDI clip. We hit play. This is kind of nice, but it's firing them way too frequently.
Absolutely.
And that's actually not the note that we want, or that's not the chord. That's the way that I interpret that is the other chord is actually the first chord,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, I'd say
maybe-
that this other chord is like, or the only chord even.
oh right, because it's the same chord just transposed.
How?
guess is
What do I
usually-
do? Okay, here's where I get stuck. So like you did what you. This is awesome. Honestly, this is the coolest part about it. Is like you go searching through browsing through the unlimited sounds that it has, and you know it's gonna have beautiful sounds. It sounds awesome. This is actually running through an Octatrack. Like
Oh,
what
right.
we're hearing is through an Octatrack. This actually sounds
Nice.
better than this because the Octatrack is at 44, and this
Right.
has got a much higher sample rate than that. But so like I get to this stage and I play with some stuff and I hit the MIDI capture button. I even forget that it exists, and then I remember and I go, oh my god, there's all this cool stuff, and there's just like massive array of notes that I've played, and it's randomly, grabbed a selection. Yeah. And then I find it and I go and I start playing with this, and this is where I'm like, this turns this way, and I'm very confused. I get a little lost here.
For sure.
If I wanted to take like just the second chord and I want it to trigger once every 4 bars on the offbeat of bar 1.
Yeah. How do we do that?
Take me there.
Perfect. Yeah. So let's just jump over to session view. So when you capture, it always dumps your capture to a new clip, right? So this is the clip that we're working in. If I was playing interesting, cool stuff over here that we wanted to keep, the way that I would work is I would hold down duplicate and just duplicate it over and then start editing this pad.
Okay.
However, none of this was cool. We don't care about that. Okay. So let's go ahead and select this original clip, and we've got this button crop. So now it is just a 1 bar loop. It's playing too frequently, like we discussed. You got a couple options here. So if you click edit, this is where you can select individual notes. You can change their pitch, you can change their length, you can nudge them around, their velocity range. So every time it plays, it kind of randomizes within some range of velocities.
That's really cool.
Also, the mute and solo buttons do work
on the notes
per note. So right now I have just this note selected, this middle one. If I click the mute button, unfortunately, it doesn't really make it easy to tell.
Looks like you muted the pad because that turned right.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. If you hold mute and press.
Oh, press a note.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to tell, but that note is muted.
It's flashing like something happened to it.
Yeah.
I got it. Looks a little grayed out.
I don't know if that's muted or not. Is that
something
muted?
happened? The pad's muted again. The whole selection.
Dang it. Okay, let's just play it. Anyway, you can mute notes. You can mute tracks when you're not trying to mute tracks, like I just did. Let's try and get this to play a little slower. Okay. So back out. We don't want to edit the specific notes. There's a couple options here. We can either just extend. Whoa, sorry.
This is that's what I do.
Yeah. So the leftmost knob is always super important. I usually am two-handing this. So the left knob is always on the zoom.
What are you doing? Like you're grabbing the zoom and you're grabbing. What's the other hand doing?
So the other hand is on either the loop position, loop length, or start offset.
So okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab loop length, and so we just doubled the length here, since it's now 2 bars instead of 1.
Isn't there a double loop button too?
There is. That will double all of the notes in your loop as well. So if I zoom out here, now we can see we still have that 1 bar and then a blank bar at the end. Okay. If we go back to 1 bar and we click double, you'll see it's now loop length 2. And if we zoom out, we now have a copy of the same thing.
But we have an undo, so
So
cool.
But both these methods work, and in fact, in this case, I probably would opt for double length, and that way we can go back through here
and start editing.
Yeah. So let's start by grabbing maybe some of these notes, and there, and we'll just delete those. So now. It's actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
That pattern. We can maybe duplicate this again, and then zoom back out. It automatically selects the newly added stuff. So if you wanted to get really crazy with it, this is not going to sound good, but let's just change the pitch of all of those just so you can kind of get an idea for editing. Yeah. So that didn't sound very good. So we'll just return this to there. Duplicate this guy again. Zoom back out. Let's go ahead and...
So you are moving in a way, at a speed at which is familiar to me on other devices.
Right.
But not on this one. And I can't go this quick, obviously, because I don't know it as well. But I also am not even... my brain isn't thinking the way that you are thinking in piano roll
Yes.
brain.
Yes.
Like I can see that. And it also is the presentation, of course, but I'm not when I'm programming chords coming from either a tracker or like a digitone, which are the two things I'm programming chords on the most, or a Toneverk or something. It's all the same experience regardless. It's more of this stacking. It's almost like MIDI CCs. Like it's just like I don't really the visual presentation doesn't mean anything to me. I'm reading C5 D sharp 4 and that's the data that matters to me because I'm thinking in thirds and fifths and sevenths and stuff like that.
Well, and they cleanly display it that way, so they make it easy for you to think in that way. And having the piano roll here is actually almost kind of a disservice because it forces you to think in a piano roll way when might not.
I would actually kind of like it if there was a presentation that showed me just like a stack of notes and I was just programming notes on us.
Yeah, so there actually is a view for that. I don't use it too often, but if we go back to Note View and we hit this Layout button, there's a couple options: melodic sequencer, and then the melodic sequencer plus 32 notes. So the bottom row is 32. These are the pads, and then above it is step sequencer view. So if we hit play. So you can see where notes are placed, and if you hold down, if you hold down one of these, it highlights which notes are being played.
Okay.
And you can even add or remove notes. So, remove these guys. Oh, that was the wrong note. There we go.
It sounds super good.
Yeah, so you can edit this way as well. And another important piece here is these scene launch buttons and beat repeat buttons. They show you the level of quantization of the grid. So we can jump up to say quarter notes. So each thing represents a quarter note.
Which makes more sense in this context.
Right.
So like my next go-to at this stage, like say I was writing a dub techno track, I would immediately be like, well, I like this chord progression. I know what a kick and a hat.
Yeah.
Is that what you would do too?
Probably, yeah. Something along those lines. Actually, lately I've been waiting to the last possible minute to put in drums because I'm so comfortable writing drums. As soon as I add the drums in, my brain switches to a slightly different mode. Okay. And so it's like, okay, let's focus on arranging now. And so I don't always continue to add layers after I've added drums. So typically I leave the drums to the very last stage. But one of the nice things here is once you add something, you can also just mute it and continue on, adding other things. So let's go ahead and add a drum track here. I'm going to slide this over to the left because that's the way I like to think about it. Drum rack. So now if we go to here, we've got all the pads. Let's click on the first one, and we'll go to device. And here's where things might get a little crazy. We're gonna go into my user library and samples. Got a bunch of pretty wild stuff in here. Actually, let's do it this way. Sometimes if I'm adding in just drum sounds, I'll go ahead and go to drums, and then we can filter by type. So let's say one shot, maybe a drum, so maybe we'll go to kick drums here. Just listen to whatever junk I have in here. Tell me when to stop.
I usually end up throwing like a low, but like if we're doing like a dubby sound, I'd probably filter it anyway.
Oh my gosh, I've got so many of these resampled. We're getting into 808 territory. What the heck?
My lord.
Jeez. Okay, before we dig too deep in here, let's say not distorted. Let's do analog.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let's go ahead and turn accent on. So this way we're always getting the same volume.
Oh, it's useful to know.
So this is Simpler, which is the kind of default sample editing device. It has, on the computer, it has an option called Snap, which if you look at this waveform, you'll see the very end of it is gray. And if I adjust the start position, or the end position, you'll see that gray line moving. So what this is doing is it's looking for transients in the sample, and it's snapping to the nearest transient relative to the start and end points. But you don't necessarily always want that, right? Like
Right.
what if we actually wanted the sample to be a little bit longer and we had a fade out that we were going to do somewhere else?
Right.
That fade option is not available on Push. So this is one of those things where you can do it on the computer. You can't do it directly from Push. So one of my workarounds, if we switch to, we're going to switch out this sample here, the device. I have device selected. I'm actually going to clear all of these filters. And then we're going to go to collections, instrument. We're going to go to Simpler. And I have this saved as a preset called No Snap Simpler. And what this is going to do is let's load up a sample. Go back out to drums. Of course, I cleared my filter here, so this is going to be, we're going to have to go find that kick drum again, which is a little silly. Character, I think we had selected analog, and it was this one. Okay, so now that we have this selected, did it overwrite? I think it overwrote the, it did, okay. Do that. Okay. Yeah, no snap, load, switch this to sample, not device. So when we had it selected to device, it loaded the sample into a fresh, simpler device. Okay. We actually wanted to retain the settings we had in Simpler and just change out the sample.
Okay, that's good
to
know.
Switch over to the sample here, and then let's go find that kick drum again for the third time now. Analog. Thud. Kick 808 thud. Okay. Now, if we zoom out, you'll notice there isn't a gray section here. So here now, as we move the tail, it's actually going to end wherever we set the end to be. So now we can say add a fade out. Fortunately, you can't really see what's going on there. Which I think, yeah, we don't get to see it, but you can hear it.
Cool.
So let's start with maybe a kick like this. And then if we look at our layouts here, so if you hold the layout button, it will show you all of the options, and you can actually just select here. So instead of having to toggle through layouts with the layout button, you can just hold the layout button and select exactly what you want to see.
That's cool.
Which is pretty
And
sweet.
there's a rhythm generator.
There is. I'll be honest, I haven't really played around with that one too much. So
Okay.
we're not gonna dive into that one right now, because you'll just get to watch me flounder around with it for a bit, which could be kind of fun.
No. I think we're good. I think if we get like a kick a hat and then just like a bass patch, then I think
Sure.
this would be a good demonstration on it, just like how getting started with this is from the perspective of somebody who already knows how to use Push.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm holding down layout, and I'm gonna select loop selector. This gets you looking at a couple things. So let me just jump back over to the clip that we had set up earlier. So the start position and the offset and the loop length, all of these are available or not all of them, but they're available to be changed, specifically the start and end positions of your loop from the loop selector layout here. So what do I mean by that? So if I hold down 1, let me mute this so that we're not listening to anything. This created a new clip that is 1 bar long. Now if I hold this and I press another pad, this is now 2 bars long. So you can select and create really long clips really quickly. Or if you like, or if you just want to edit one section of a clip, you can hold down 2 pads that aren't the start and stop. and now it's just going to loop these 2 bars of a clip.
That's useful.
And if we go back to the session view, you'll see that it created a clip here because we didn't have a clip selected, so it creates a new clip. So I'm going to go ahead and select the first 2 bars. If we go to 8th note view, then these 2 bars are going to be represented by these 2 rows here. If we wanted to get more granular, if you go to 16, then these 2 bars are represented with these 4 rows here. So because this is a kick drum, we can just put it 4 on the floor, do there and there. If we unmute this or launch
Well, when you're programming your drums, I mean, like we're doing a 4 on the floor kick. You don't usually play 4 on the floor kicks. I mean, I hear your patterns. This is not typical for you to just throw down 4 on the floor.
Correct.
Are you finger drumming these in, or are you going in micro time? Because your stuff has usually got like quite a bit of like swung groove to it.
Yeah.
I hear your tracks.
Yeah, so I like to leave it up to my bad playing
And
to get some of that.
And then dial in some.
Yeah, so there's a couple ways to do this. One is you play something in, and then you can quantize a clip here. If you hold down the quantize button, you've got a bunch of options. So how much do you want to quantize it by? Do you want to add swing directly into it? Do you want to quantize to 16th notes or 32 or whatever? I usually leave this on 16. And if I'm finger drumming something in and I want to keep some human feel to it, but tighten it up, then usually I'll quantize it by 50 to 60% like this. And that'll kind of dial things in close enough that it'll be kind of on beat, but still have a little bit of variation.
So do you just like load a kit usually?
I like to make kits.
So
like
you
on
do
the fly.
what we are doing is your typical work.
Yeah. So normally I wouldn't put the kick drum down immediately. Maybe let's go over here and like grab a couple more samples, just so that we have a more full sound here. So
my go-to is like go find a drum kit that doesn't have a bunch of extra goofy sounds in it, like chords and vocal stabs and stuff like that. Like just a drum kit. So I'd rather pick those side piece sounds that are like chords and vocals and stuff myself, but the drums themselves, if I just need to get a groove, the kit usually is a much faster approach for me.
Yeah.
Than fumbling through samples forever, despite on like the Electron workflow and my Tracker workflow, and that's always what I'm going to draw comparisons to. I am individually, I never load a kit. I'm always picking a sound on a per track basis, but there is always a default sound there to give me some sort of something.
Yeah, a starting point.
A starting point, yeah.
Yeah. I've been like collecting samples for a very long time, so I just have a lot of samples that I like going back to pretty frequently. So this is kind of a relatively fast way to kind of juggle through that. Let's go ahead and load a few more things. I'll load like 2 or 3 hat sounds. Maybe an open hat.
Just to address like the process of what we're going through. You're giving me the reason why this is taking the time it takes to program is because you're explaining everything.
We're talking through it.
We're talking through this process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I can see that there is like, I could make a track, faster in this particular workflow and stuff like that in comments. But the truth is
I mean, if we weren't talking,
you would have banged this out.
We would be
now.
probably 2 or 3 scenes deep of just goofing around with stuff.
Right. But I want to know this stuff, so I need to hear these details.
For sure.
So this is your go-to. You put a couple of sounds down real quick.
We're gonna choke group these. So,
oh, nice. Okay. Cool.
Maybe we'll do a filter on this guy.
Is it fast to like chop up like breaks and like if I say I want to do like a jumble track on here, like how quickly could I do that? Not to make you do that right now. Even though I think it's good to get a chopped up groove going in a dub techno track as well.
This is another way to do it. Yeah, check this out. So we'll go to, I just created a new MIDI track. We'll go to my user library. I happen to know I've got a bunch of cool drum break packs. So like, let's go to shout out Stolen Drums. He makes some pretty awesome stuff, both one shots and loops. So let's grab a.
That was a wonky beat.
These are like live recorded.
Very behind the beat stuff.
Let's find something that's a little. Oh my gosh, why are these so fast? Sure, we'll grab that. So again, we're in simpler. We switch this over to slice mode. It's going crazy because we now have
1,000,000 slices.
1.5 billion slices. Let's go to, transient, and then we can kind of turn on the sensitivity so we can...
Do you usually do transient? Because my go-to would have been to just do it. If it's a quantized loop, I would have just grabbed by a grid or something.
Yeah, you can do that as well. It kind of depends. I like to try a lot of stuff out. So if I'm doing drums, then typically I'll do it by transient so I can kind of get individual hits a little faster. But if I'm chopping up a chord thing and I want to do some weird choppy pad chord stuff, then I'll do it by grid or whatever.
Is this so this is simpler, which is different than sampler.
Yeah, sampler is like it's the like deeper cousin to simpler.
Okay.
It has a lot of really crazy like multi-sample features, but those are not available for editing from Push standalone
And
or
can
Push
you
UI.
build a multi-sample on Push 3? Could you record multi-samples from here?
There is a Max for Live device for creating multi-samples. I haven't tried it on Push standalone.
Okay.
And I don't have a lot of gear that kind of necessitates multi-sampling. Like if there's something that I want to play, like I'll just play it and hit record and then live with whatever limitations that gives me. But yeah, so we have this capture. Let's just see what this... It's probably gonna sound like trash. Change this down to...
And then you're just gonna like throw some quantization behind it to...
Yeah, let's just like dial in like, I don't know, 60% quantized. Select all, quantize. This is kind of a bad example just because I didn't have anything going behind it. But let's go ahead and delete this and do this how I might normally do it. So we're at 120. Let me just find a couple hits here. Sure. Let's start with that. Crank this thing over here. We do a 2-bar loop. We'll remove that snare drum. Maybe we'll just change this to a different pad. It's got a kick in it. Quantize this. And we can compare this to the kick drum. Oh wait, we took that out actually. See, now it has like kind of like a push and pull to it, and that's just because I played it in horribly. So, you know,
But I mean, you could have just
leaning
the quantization
leaning
setting
into
up on
those
it.
mistakes is kind of like part of the fun, right? So maybe let's goop around with
you
this a little more.
Took like those slices, is there a way to just like make it so they're just like really short decay envelopes on them, so it's just like little clicks?
Absolutely.
'Cause I think that would probably make them work.
Change this to maybe Then we can go back to the clip. We're gonna crop this so that we don't have anything else going on. Select all of these, and maybe we'll change the note length down. So now, if we go back over to this guy, and we switch to gate, now it's only playing for as long as the note is pressed, instead of just playing that entire section. And then we can select everything. Maybe we'll quantize it a little more because again, it's kind of out. There we go. So like that's an example of I'm just kind of playing something in and feeling it out. Capture button, it works for all of the stuff that's playing and like in a MIDI clip that's existing and what you're playing on top of it. So I just hit the capture button there, and it's recorded the whole time that it was just the kick drum, when I started playing the hi-hat a little bit, right. And then at the end where I kind of stopped playing the hi-hat. So
seems like it has a pretty long memory for
it does.
Capture.
And then this guy, again, this is kind of a little bit too prominent, so we can, let's add like a filter.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Maybe we'll turn the volume down on it too.
Or even like some reverb behind it would be nice.
Yes, great idea. Selections, we'll go to R, reverb. Make this really small.
That sounds cool.
Maybe we'll add a maybe a EQ after this, so that we aren't doing anything weird with the low end. Just over to here. There we go.
That's starting to sit in the mix now.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll duplicate the drum pattern, and then we'll go over here and we can like add snare drums or something. Oh yeah, so since I had captured that previously, the this loop has gotten kind of wonky. The loop indicator is different from the whole length of the clip. So we're just gonna go ahead and shorten this guy up. And then we jump to, what's going on here? Oh, right. I didn't actually play this. Oh, sorry. Oh my gosh, I was editing the wrong clip. This happens sometimes. I get a little confused. So we're gonna select this clip, and now this view is looking at that clip. So now if we put this here, it should, unless I made another mistake here. Oh, there we go.
For the chord progression, can I?
Yeah, of course.
So can we go over to the chord progression track?
Yep.
And then for like say I wanted to edit the progression a little bit, I go into clip mode here, right? And I want less chords.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to if I wanted to maybe, can we hear the chords again?
And then
so that last chord is the only chord I want.
Oh, yeah.
So say like I only want that chord and I want it on what would be the offbeat at the beginning of the pattern. How would I shift that over here? Like what would you do to like make that happen quickly? Would you go to like eliminate these chords and just give me that one nice minor chord?
So what I would do is I'd go over to the layout mode here and I would find, okay, these guys, get rid of all these notes. Oop. There's a couple ways to do it. One, you can do it that way. The way that I typically do, it's a little bit slower, but I'll just go in and delete these notes. These notes, like this. And then because we have a doubled loop here, we can just shorten this down like this. So now if we play this, we're only gonna get that one chord at the end. And then let's say we wanted to move that over. There's two ways. Either we could select all these notes and slide them over, or we could change the start offset. So this is where in the clip the downbeat is. So in this case, we could put this right here, and now the downbeat is where those chords play. Or we could move it a little early so the chords play late.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to throw like a delay behind it, like a nice echo.
For sure. Yeah, let's go effects, echo. Pop this guy in here. Maybe.
Oh yeah.
We can go into the modulation zone and get kind of crazy with it. Maybe the filter, the delay, and then maybe we'll add some wobble here.
I like the wobble. That's nice. That's a good trick right there. The delay sounds really good.
It does. It's got all these cool modes. So this is just the classic stereo one. It's got a mid-side one.
Ooh.
So it delays the mid and then the side, and it alternates between mid and side.
That's really cool.
It's also got a ping pong, so it just does left and right.
The ping pong's usually my go-to for this particular style, but I think it sounds pretty good on.
There's also a built-in reverb, so you can have the delayed path get reverbed out as well.
Sick.
Yeah. So maybe something like this. And maybe we'll turn this down just below 50%, so we get the dry note louder than the reverb.
Now, say I want to modulate the filter cutoff on my synth chord.
Yeah. So there's a
it's
couple ways
different
to
every time
do
it hits.
this. You could either jump into the synth preset and like try and find where the settings are to control the filter cutoff, or you can use the modulator devices. So I'm gonna go into collections, utilities and external. This is where I have a bunch of the modulator devices saved in collections. This way I can get to them pretty quickly. So let's load up. Let's start with the envelope follower. This one's kind of... It's annoying that they don't add the display for the envelope here. I think at some point we will get that. Whenever Max for Live gets the ability to add custom UI elements here, I'm sure that'll get added. So for the time being, you just have to trust that it's following the volume of whatever incoming signal. And you can control the rise and fall rates and the slew and the range, and then you can map that to something else. So in this case, we've got the envelope follower. We're going to click into it. On the main, we've got this map button. So if we press this button, we can then select something, say on drift. Let's go over to filter, and here's the low pass frequency. We press the save button. And now,
save button. I didn't even...
when we play this, let's adjust the envelope a little bit. Let me scoot this out of the group here.
Well, that sounds much more dubby now.
Oh, here. Because it's set to... So there's also two ways that the modulator devices can work. There's remote and modulate. So remote, it takes over that control. So you as the user can't adjust it at all. And this modulator device is going to control exactly where that moves.
Additive.
Almost. It's absolute.
Okay.
The modulate option, instead of remote, it will be additive to wherever the knob currently is.
That's what I meant. Like the modulator is additive. Remote
Yeah.
is absolute.
Yeah, so right now it's in modulator, so we can still adjust that start position. But if we switch this to remote, we can now set the absolute values here. And if we go back to drift, we'll see that this is grayed out, so we can't control it. So now it's going to be controlled exclusively by this envelope follower. Oh, you know what? That might have... Let me unmap this and remap it, because it might have gotten a little goofed up. Unmap, and then we will... Oh, I see why that was getting kind of weird. This was actually mapped to a parameter. There we go. So now we can see it's moving. Sorry. What was going on, because this is inside of a rack, that knob was actually mapped to one of these macros. So if we wanted to retain that mapping, we would have put the envelope follower on this rack instead of directly on that filter cutoff.
So envelope follower seems like a go-to for you.
Envelope follower is great. Yeah, it kind of does. You
I
can do a
would've
lot of the
just
gating.
Grabbed an
stuff.
LFO and just tied it to the filter cutoff and set it at like a really slow movement that was like out of phase with my track or something. That's like my go-to when it comes to like this particular style. Is how would I do that too?
Yeah, it's exactly the same process.
I haven't gone through the modulators on here. Like I've just been using the built-in modulators in the instruments.
Yep.
But I would love to know how to do like the workflow that I'm a little used to on the Electron stuff.
For sure. Yeah. So I loaded up the LFO device. We're going to set this to remote again. And instead of mapping this to the filter cutoff directly, I'm actually going to map this to the rise
Of the envelope
on
follower.
the envelope follower. So we get this kind of like layers of modulation going on.
That's cool.
This, the type of stuff that you can do in your rack that
Right.
typically you can't do in other groove boxes and stuff. So we can kind of adjust the depth here. If we go back over here, we can see that it's going all over the place. So let's change the range down a little bit and then maybe make it slower. So now this envelope follower, the rise, it's either gonna follow slower or faster to the incoming signal based on this rise position. And that's changing over time. So we get this kind of another level of modulation going on. Maybe we'll turn this down. Maybe we'll turn this to stray, so it's kind of just like moving around a little bit.
Cool. Oh yeah, that sounded nice. That sounded nice now.
Maybe we can add another LFO and have it control some settings on the echo, maybe. So let's see, where is this? Things get a little crazy once you have a ton of layers here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close some of these up so we don't have to look at quite as many things. All of these LFO devices were stacked inside of that instrument rack. So I'm gonna pull that out. So now when we collapse the instrument rack, we can still see the modulator.
Good.
Okay, so let's grab this guy. We'll change it to remote again. We'll select map. Let's jump over to the echo. Let's see, what would be kind of crazy? Maybe feedback. This might be a little dangerous. Let me turn this down from 100 so we don't get some like completely overblown. So yeah, so this is going way too fast. So maybe let's do that and let's adjust the minimum. And maybe let's make this random. And there's some kind of advanced things you can do, so like jitter and smoothing. So now it won't be quite as consistent. We'll see it like
That's cool.
slightly
It's definitely
fluctuating.
brought like this single chord. Like I love this. What I like about this particular genre and why I was like, let's do this, is because you can really just sit down and listen to one thing and focus in on just like dialing in one nice sound. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
you can start building a groove around this. Like I can hear like how cool it'd be to have a nice like subby bass line here and
Yeah.
maybe like a thumpy kick or something.
Yeah.
Not that I wanted us to do that right now, but I mean, yeah, bass line would be good.
Yeah,
and
let's
then
add a
I think
bass.
I would. Do you have another track on here that you'd be available to?
Yeah,
to
I've got some
share
other
too?
tracks on
Like
here.
after we
Yeah.
put a little bass line on here really quick and hear this with the drums, and
For
then
sure.
maybe you play us out.
Yeah,
'Cause we've
yeah,
been
that sounds
going
good.
For over 2 hours.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Let's jump into some of my samples here. I really like Dirty Bird put out a record label, or put out a record label. They're a record company, so of course they put out. They put out a sample pack a while ago, which has some really nice sounding bass. And the nice thing is they tell you what the tuning is. I still find myself going over to the tuner device quite often whenever I load up a sample into Simpler and I want to see what's going on. Like, what note is this? Tells me it's an F. So now if we
You'll
want
just
this,
tune it down to a C or whatever.
yeah, because right now we're in C major. So let's tune this down to a C. So we go into global. Let's see. F will be E, D sharp, D, C sharp, C. Is that right? Let's find out. Yes, nailed it.
Your math wizard.
Okay, let's just jump back over to the sequencer and 32 note view. and we'll change octaves until we hear what's going on. So maybe let's just put a note down, see how long this clip is. So I made a really long clip because I have fixed length on. And this way, if you're recording clips, you can guarantee that they will record a specific amount of time and then stop recording after then. So if I'm playing stuff in, usually I'll leave it in fixed length. But in this case, we actually don't necessarily need fixed length to be on. If we just turn on one bar, we can duplicate stuff. Maybe we'll move this around. We might lose where the one is here too. This is something that I find happens a lot if I don't have drums playing. Like where is the one on this? So I'll just turn the click track on just so that we can we'll dial this in a little more. Maybe we'll
Like a little earlier or whatever. Early or late.
Yeah. Maybe we'll put that here.
I like those, the short note like that. It sounds cool.
Yeah.
Maybe we just throw like a third or like a minor third or an octave on there or something. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I do love those like really soft bass sounds.
Yeah.
They're.
Okay.
And there's trig conditions and stuff like that in here, isn't there? Isn't there like probability?
There is.
Can't I like hold this down and see some stuff up here? Chance?
Yes, you can adjust the chance here, so you can get kind of some probabilistic stuff going on.
Yeah.
One of the ways I like to work is if I'm doing this type of thing, like this pattern is kind of busy compared to what I might actually want, but I want some of these notes to play, but just not necessarily every time. So instead of doing trig conditions, a lot of times I'll just duplicate the loop a couple times. So now I've got a 4-bar loop, and then I can just go in and do my regular piano roll kind of thing. So like maybe we'll get rid of these 2 notes here, and then we'll get rid of that note there, and then maybe this note and this note.
The advantage of stuff like probability in this particular style is that a lot of times you're going to have the same loop play for a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of just like a bed, and so probability can kind of kick ass in that.
Oh, absolutely.
In that sense.
One of the other cool things that you don't have to worry about on Push that you do have to worry about on Electron boxes is your pattern length.
Right.
Because you're tied to up to like 8 of whatever your scale is of your pattern. But in this case, you could do 256
or
bar. Whatever
you
want.
can do that on Electron, but it's like you're not going to have the resolution to like edit.
But yeah, you limit yourself to the resolution of the notes.
Yeah.
But here, all of that is available. So that's why I don't necessarily get too caught up on probability here, because I can just duplicate the length of the loop and then remove the pieces that I want. Whereas if I'm on a dig attack, I'm dialing in probabilities and trig conditions and all sorts of stuff a lot more.
Right. Well, yeah,
okay.
let's hear what we made. Because like technically we have a bass, we have our chord stab with our echo, and we have a little bit of a drum pattern. This should be something.
I'm not even sidechaining anything, dude.
Bro, do you even sidechain?
The hi-hat's kind of goofy, I'll be honest.
But we're trying to just like.
But again, this is we're just goofing around here. We can dial stuff in even more. Like I find myself like using filters on hi-hats quite a lot.
No, they sound great. Yeah, I love doing that.
And then there's that one note in there that just feels weird. It's this last one. Oh, it's a first one. Okay, we got a duplicate note here. Even like this snare drum sample is kind of weird. Doesn't really fit. Maybe you want like more of like a rim shot or something. Just real quick, we can jump in and find a rim shot just so we end on a slightly more clean. Yeah, let's just do a clap. Sure, that was nice. Because we got a bit of a tighten that up. And this, I don't know about you, but this feels like it wants to be at like 130.
Feels like it wants to be like 200 BPM.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. No,
Cool.
it was great. No, you walked me through a whole bunch of stuff that I had. Like the modulator in particular was the stuff that was the most that I hadn't used yet.
And you
I
can
hadn't
go real deep
I
with
haven't
it
gone
now.
into too much of the modulator. It seems like you can go you just can go incredibly deep on
Yeah.
on every aspect of the Push 3. And this has been a really nice lesson.
But previously that was a pretty limited corner.
Yeah, you couldn't do that
Yeah.
before when it first came out.
Yeah.
The modulators were not really very approachable or even really usable.
No, in fact, the last update that came out was the one that like really opened the ability to use modulators from the Push user interface.
It's awesome because this is like honestly, I could make tracks like I could go deep into this like W world, which I feel very inspired to do very easily on here because it has great effects and good sounding synths. But it seems like it's the modulation section is what I really enjoy doing on like my Electron stuff. It seems like it's now I can actually do the stuff that I like to do.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I've loaded up a project here. This has all sorts of kind of fun stuff in it. Actually, this has a pretty good example of a very long clip. So I just held down a bunch of chords for a long time, kind of jump between them, and I put an arpeggiator on there. And,
Cool. Oh, this is the thing you played for me earlier.
Yeah.
I really like how it sounded.
Okay, so we'll just let me scoot this. Mix groups over. Okay, we'll do this.
Awesome. Beautiful track. I love those arpeggios. Are really cool.
Thanks, man.
And I mean, you definitely show off how good this machine can sound. And like I've said, this is running through my Octatrack, so it's being slightly downsampled, but yeah, amazing. And thank you so much for the lesson on Push 3 and doing it live here with everybody watching, which is can be mildly stressful. Having a comment section while you're teaching somebody is a unique experience, I'll say the least. But no, it was awesome. I learned so much about the Push 3. I feel totally inspired. I really want to get my noise site dropout, like I said at the beginning of the session. And
feel your noise site drop.
yeah, it's a really cool one. It's really cool. Get the dropout and maybe start building my template.
Yeah.
For me to make some music on here, because like just watching this, I can see how quickly you're moving, and like just seeing how fast you're moving on here. When you like don't have to give me commentary, gives me like the hope that I can move that quickly, because when I'm working in like my Electron realm, I don't need to think at all. Like I can just like I can just blast out a track and like
and that confuses me, because I've tried the Octatrack 2 or 3 times now, and every time I watch you do it, I'm like, hey, how do you do X? And you're like, oh, like, I don't know what you just did. You want to slow that one down?
Right. It is still not as deep as this machine can get, I think. Like even the whole ecosystem compared, this is still a more complex beast, and probably requires more learning, because you really are learning Ableton in a very abstract way, and it's probably best practice to just plug this into Ableton and then learn Ableton and then kind of come here. I'd say like if I was to give anybody in sort of a tip, I'd be like, hey, don't do what I'm doing right now. I am approaching it from a dawless perspective, and not that dawless, I don't even like the word. It encapsulates the fact that I'm not focusing on my computer.
Right.
But honestly, I think it's kind of a bad word. I think it's almost silly.
Yucky.
But it's just not true, because I use my DAW, and I love the DAWs that I work in. But this is the closest thing besides an MPC, and I don't own an MPC, to having like a DAW workflow outside of my computer. But anyway, you did such a great job. Your music is so fantastic, and I hope to get more lessons from you live on stream if you're ever down to do it again.
For sure.
And I would love, like I said, to switch seats with you.
And
me too. Have me run the push and ask questions when I get stuck.
Yeah.
Because that is something that I think is really fun to do, because I do that with people all the time when I'm teaching. And when I'm teaching like Electron stuff, I'll be like, all right, we're gonna build this track out. We want to work in this style. Now you're gonna do it, and I'm gonna watch, and as you are tripping, I'm gonna be like, you hit the let's go back.
For sure.
Do that. So that'd be really cool. And so everybody, thank you for hanging out and for sticking with us during this 2.5 hour stream on the Push 3, mostly about discussion between myself and my friend Jordan, aka Phemto, who's got albums and wonderful music you listen to. I'll have that in the summary on the YouTube video, so you can go check out his music, because it's fantastic, and he has a massive amount, a huge collection of great music. And he's a great instructor and taught me so much, and also taught me like way more advanced stuff than I was expecting to look at today. I was like, whoa, some of the stuff is like, I definitely faded into like a place where I was like, damn, this is
the void.
Yeah, this is the void, and you took me there. So thank you again for coming and hanging out. And for everybody else, if you enjoy this kind of stuff and you want to see people sit around and let themselves be watched while they make music and talk at the same time about gear, you're on the channel right now. So go ahead and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff. You can visit patreon.com/EZBOT. If you want to support it financially, that's great. That really helps a lot. But otherwise, everybody, thank you for kicking it. And I'll see you maybe even later this week. And again, this is Phemto. I'll catch y'all later.
Thanks, y'all.